Thank you very much once again. Let me take this opportunity to welcome you back at this aristocratic channel of ours. And this channel is known as MATRIC+NATED Specialist. We are here to wish you luck and to support you pertaining to your journey of your grade 12. And then mainly we are going to look at English first additional language, which is for grade 12. Bear in mind that this is the content coverage created based on the new poems that they are taking note. And then please hit the subscription button and press it more, hit the subscription button and share to those who are concerned. Today we are going to look at this sixth poem that we are going to discuss pertaining in this subject. And then the name of the poem is You Loved and Loved and Loved by Gabriel Okara. And then without wasting any time, let us just go to the overview of the poem. The Nigerian poem, The Voice. He won an award at the Nigerian Festival of Arts in 1953. He was awarded a Commonwealth Prize in 1979. He died in Federal Medical Center, Nigeria, on the 25th March 2019. May his soul rest in peace, and we are grateful for the contribution that he has made. And then you can see this is the picture of the old man. And then let us go now to the summary of the poem. And then in the summary of the poem, number one, this poem depicts the life of an African who faced racism. It is highlighted at the end of white people. Remember that during the time of apartheid, what was happening in South Africa, so they also experienced the same system of apartheid, which by white people suppressed the black ones. So in this regard, we are to ensure that we are going to discuss going forward. They were laughed at or mocked by white people for their song and music, which they express, they used to express their pain and emotions. So what we would see that white people at that time did not understand what was going in their physical being and in the pain that they're facing. And in these regards, they did not understand that this music that they use to entail, it frees them and it makes them to be at ease. White people laughed at African because they did not understand the meaning dancing and singing had for black people. The poem ends on a positive note when the speaker describes how white people learn to understand the importance of dancing and singing to Africans. And then we have to see that over the time they developed to learn, they saw what they were doing was incorrect. Later on, they tried to learn from these Africans, and then they had a better understanding of that. And then this poem, it ends on the positive note. Okay, I want us now to read the poem. As we are reading the poem, listen to it up until the end, and then we will discuss it, the meanings later on. And then You Laughed and Laughed and Laughed by Gabriel Echibaba Okara. In your eyes, in your ears, my song is motor car misfiring, stopping with a choking cough, and you laughed and laughed and laughed. In your eyes, my ain't natal walk was inhuman, passing your omniverse understanding, and you laughed and laughed and laughed. You laughed at my song, you laughed at my walk. Then I danced my magic dance to the rhythm of talking, taking drums, pleading. But you shut your eyes and laughed and laughed and laughed. And then I opened my mystic inside white like the sky. Instant you entered your car and laughed and laughed and laughed. You laughed at my dance. You laughed at my inside. You laughed and laughed and laughed, but your laughter was an ice block. Louder and it froze, your inside froze. Your voice froze, your ears froze, your eyes, and froze your tongue. And it's my turn to laugh, but my laughter is not ice block. Laughter snow, not ice blocks. My laughter is the fire of the eye of the sky, the fire of the earth, the fire of the air, the fire in animal trees, and it through your inside, through your voice, through your eyes, through your ears, and through your tongue. So a meek wonder helped your shadow, and you whispered, why so? And I answered, because my father and I are owned by living warmth of the earth through our naked feet. So basically, this is the dance that they use to portray. And you would check that some of them, they are even half naked. So this was making it to find a funny for the white guys on how they lived and on how even they walked. So note that we are having words now, important words that we need to understand, and which I've tried to imply them in a simpler way and then entailing them in a better understanding. So I want us to understand this basic meaning, which I used over the poem. And then first of the word is antenatal, and the basic meaning we're saying before birth, relating to pregnancy. So you'd see by just using this word, the white people, they teased us and they said that it is because of we are related to pregnancy, and this is how they used to tore the Nigerians apart of the black population. And then we've got the omnivores understand everything in T screamingly and then extensively. So you are understanding it in a better way and thoroughly. And then we've got mystic, which we say is magical. So this word was used on how magical the dance used to be saw by the black thought, and we are saying that it means soft and melted. The word meek, it represents a quiet, gentle, shy, and patient. Okay, and then I want us to go now to the type and the form. The poem you loved and loved and loved consists of 10 stanzas. We are saying 10 stanzas which are consisted out of lines. They represent the paragraph. So we are saying this is an unequal in a formal in length. It has no definite meter, no consistent rhyme scheme, and no specific length or formal requirement. So in this poem, we are going to learn that this is informal. If we are moving on, we would see that the only consistency is repetition that is taking over the poem, and the title and again in stanza 7. So we are to see that the only repetition is you laughed and laughed and laughed, but not all the stanzas. You would find that you find it in the first 4 opening stanza and in stanza 7. Okay, then I want us to go to the analysis of the poem. I want us to analyze now the poem, and then in this basic overview you are to see that in this stanza the speaker in stanza 1, in this instant, in this stanza, the speaker portrays the attitude of white people towards African songs. The sound of their songs is harsh and loud. White people do not understand it. As a result, it sounds like a motor car misfiring, making an awkward noise. He says white people do not value African culture. Instead, they laugh and laugh and laugh. The repetition of laughed and laughed and laugh adds the beauty of the poem, as the words emphasize the racial discrimination that black people experienced through that time. So I hope you understand now the first stanza. And then if we are moving on to the second stanza, we are to see that in this instinct, the African people are not as stylish and modern as the white people. They have a clumsy walk, the antenatal walk, which we referred to, an image of the pregnant woman, which is considered inhuman and not like a human, and they are mocked about it. That is why you find that even others, they used not to be comfortable around white people. And then let us move on again to stanza 3, and then we are saying these 2 lines summarizes and put emphasis on the white people mock African people for their song and for their walk. If we are moving on again, we are to see that we go to stanza 4, whereby we are to see that African people are mocked for their magical and cultural dance by the speaker, who describes the reaction of the white people who close their eyes to avoid looking at it. They dance to their music and the rhythm of talking drums, pleasing. The image of taking a drums pleading represents the beat of drums. And then in stanza number 5, we are to see that the speaker invites the white people to experience the beauty of his world, which is mystic or magical. Instead of the white enjoying that space, the African sky, they prefer their materialistic world represented by their cars. If we are moving on again, we are to see that we must discuss the other stanza, which is stanza 6. And then in this instant, we are to see that the white people laughed at everything that mattered more and their dance. In stanza 7, the speaker describes the continuous laughter of the white people as ice cold, mocking phrases their ability to emphasize with African culture at that time. So we are to learn that this overview, it happened, it pained them, but at the end of the day, the mocking was over. Furthermore, the laughter closed all the senses of the white people, hearing, seeing, and tasting, preventing them from relating to the African people now. And then let us go without wasting time on stanza 8. And then in this stanza, the speaker uses a now to indicate a change. Let us take note of that. Because of there is a change that has transpired, it is now the turn of the African people mocking like the laughter of the white people. The African people are not materialistic, and they are not, therefore, they do not mock white people in this stanza. And then in stanza number 9, let us see that here we are to see that the intensity of African laughter is portrayed, it's been seen as using fire, sun, water, all these natural elements. We are saying that the speaker describes the African laughter as the fire of the sun, eyes of the sky. The intensity of the heat of the sun is emphasized in this, and it is portrayed. The speaker uses fine elements of the earth, animate and inanimate objects to intensify how the fire melt so they are frozen hearts. And then in stanza number 10, the stanza concludes the poem. It is at this point that the white man realizes that despite all humiliation, African, they are very close now to the nature. And then if ever we are to move on, we are to see that we must discuss now the themes of the poem. These are the general overviews, the ideas of this poem. It shows us that there was racism. That what we can talk about, which I've said is number 1, the issue of racism is explored in this poem. The speaker mentions the disgrace of racial intolerance with the special reference to how white people mock African people about their music and dance. Number 2, let us talk about the culture. African culture is mocked and ridiculed by white people who misunderstand their songs and dance. White people show no empathy with the culture of Africans and misunderstand their connection that Africans have with nature. And then let us go to the diction and the figurative language. I've said to you in the previous video, the word diction, these are the choices of words that the speaker is speaking here, and then that he chooses. And then the figurative language is the figure of language that is used, and one that key element that we can see, it is repetition. So we are saying the consistent repetition of the title, you laughed and laughed and laughed. It emphasized the humiliation Black people suffered at the hands of the colonialists. And then if ever we are moving on again, we are to see that we must go again to the other figure of the poem. And then we are saying this, all that is used here. We are saying in line 22, if you can refer back now to the poem, but we are just going to see how we can entail this. But in line 22 and line 30, but your laughter was like an ice block, and my laugh, a sentence, you'd see that the laughter of white people is compared to the ice block here. And then the speaker compares his laughter with fire now. And then we are having what we call a contrast. The speaker uses the contrast between the black indigenous African culture and the white colonialist traditions here. So we are saying that is the conflict between in this instant. And then let us talk about the image. We are saying that the speaker uses natural image, water, the sky, and the fire to capture the image of the beauty. And then lastly, let us talk about the tone now and the mood of the poem. We are saying that the tone of the poem is humiliating and offensive, but it comes with assertive from the last 3-line stanzas, whereby we are seeing that the white people, they've learned that the black people dance, it heals them, therefore they accept it in the society. And then as you can see that on the other sector there, we are going to discuss on the next video the questions, and then we're going to answer all these questions. Can you please tune on again in the next video when we are answering the questions and hit the subscription button. Tell the others to hit the subscription button and share to those who are concerned. Thank you for your time.